This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. The UAW has turned its attention to workers at Hyundai's assembly plant in Alabama, and it says that 30% of the 4,000 workers at the plant, or 1,200 people, have signed cards saying they want a union. That same percentage have signed cards at the Mercedes-Benz plant in Alabama and Volkswagen's plant in Tennessee. UAW President Shawn Fain said he would personally hold a rally if any non-union plant reaches 50% enrollment, and at 70%, he'll demand the company recognize the union or the UAW will hold a union vote with workers. Over the last 4 decades of trying to organize non-union car plants, the union has hit the 30% threshold, but it hasn't been able to get more than 50% of workers to vote in favor of the UAW. The union has blamed management interference for its failures in the past, and it could do the same thing this time if it can't get enough workers to vote. But politicians and business groups are also fighting the union. Alabama's governor, Republican Kay Ivey, and the Business Council of Alabama are actively taking stands against the UAW. Used car prices in the U.S. skyrocketed during the pandemic, but they're starting to come back down. According to J.D. Power, used car prices fell 3.5% in 2023, and this year it expects price drops of another 5.7%. However, prices are still significantly higher than before the pandemic. In 2019, the average used car cost $24,100. Today, it's about $31,400, or about 20% higher. And while prices are coming down, affordable used cars are becoming harder to find. In 2019, 41% of used cars sold were below $20,000. Now it's only 20%. And not surprisingly, payments are also going up. The average used car buyer is now paying $515 a month on average, up from $414 in 2019. J.D. Power also says the used car supply will decline this year, which could impact prices, but overall, it expects a favorable market. Despite all of its recent troubles, General Motors is still committed to developing autonomous vehicles. GM President Mark Reuss said he expects its Cruise robotaxis to be back on the road in the next 1 to 2 years. GM halted all of its AV operations in the U.S. after a Cruise vehicle dragged a pedestrian after they were struck by another car. The company is being investigated by the Department of Justice, the SEC, and NHTSA over the incident. Cruise also fired 9 executives, its CEO and co-founder resigned, and it laid off 1/4 of its workforce in the wake of the accident. And while Mark Reuss says GM is still committed to Cruise, during GM's earnings call earlier this week, CEO Mary Barra said it plans to cut spending at its AV business by $1 billion this year. We have regulations for a reason, but sometimes they just seem a little ridiculous. NHTSA is ordering a recall of nearly every vehicle Tesla has ever sold in the U.S. because the font it used for warning lights on the dash is not the right size. NHTSA says it's too small and could therefore increase the risk of a crash. Like many of the recalls Tesla has been issued, this will be fixed with an over-the-air update. Speaking of Tesla, it looks like it has to go back to the drawing board for its aerodynamic wheel covers on the Cybertruck. Wheel covers can improve an EV's range by as much as 5 to 10%, and the ones on the Cybertruck extend out and fit into little grooves on the tires. There's still a gap between those two, but it's not big enough, and with natural flexing, the cover is wearing an even deeper groove into the tires. Reports say some Cybertrucks are being delivered without the covers now, and that Tesla is working on a new design. Many of the people that have a reservation for an electric pickup either need the patience of a saint or are just going to buy something else. At one point, Tesla had a reported 2 million plus pre-orders for the Cybertruck, But at today's production rate, it would be 10 plus years before everyone got their truck. And now CEO Mary Barra says that GM has 100,000 reservations for its electric pickups, including the Chevy Silverado EV and GMC Sierra and Hummer EVs. But GM is also struggling to ramp up production of its Ultium-based EVs. The Sierra EV is not even on sale yet. In 2 quarters of producing the Silverado electric, it sold 461 examples, and for all of last year, it sold a little over 3,200 Hummer EVs, and some of those were the SUV version. So GM is also on the 10-year plus delivery plan at the moment. So how are new car sales going in the U.S. market? Well, it's hard to say. Ever since GM, Ford, and Stellantis decided to report sales on a quarterly basis, it's become very difficult to figure out how the market is doing on a month-to-month basis. And other automakers seem to be dragging their feet on reporting their numbers. So far, only 4 automakers have reported their January sales: Honda, Subaru, Mazda, and the Hyundai Group, which includes Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis. Overall, their sales were up 4.2%, but it's a mixed bag. Mazda's sales shot up nearly 32%. Honda posted a 10% gain, while Subaru was flat. But Hyundai's sales fell over 8% and Kia's were down nearly 2%. But Hyundai's EV sales shot up 42%, Kia's were up 57%, while Subaru's Solterra EV saw sales fall by 42%. Most U.S. dealers think the market should be driving EV sales, not the federal government. Almost 83% of the 208 dealer and dealer managers Automotive News spoke to in its 2024 Dealer Outlook survey said that the Biden administration is pushing too hard with EV adoption. They say EVs aren't generating as much interest from customers, that prices are too high, and strict eligibility rules for EV purchase incentives are a few of the challenges. It also doesn't help that you continue to hear stories about salespeople that aren't knowledgeable about electric vehicles. Dealers in the survey think the focus should be on offering more affordable hybrids and plug-in hybrids. You know, Toyota has received a lot of criticism for its slow transition to EVs and wanting to stick with hybrids. But with EV demand slowing, it looks like that strategy could pay off. Reuters reports that more car buyers in the U.S. are opting for hybrids instead of EVs because they're more affordable and there's less range anxiety issues. In the first 11 months of 2023, hybrids accounted for 9.3% of new vehicle registrations, and a third of those were Toyotas. And globally last year, hybrids accounted for a third of Toyota sales. One Toyota dealer in Minnesota says it's aiming for hybrids to account for 40 to 50% of its total sales. And in some cases, hybrid demand is so strong that buyers are waiting for up to a year for delivery, and they're paying full MSRP. Despite what the legacy automakers say, BYD continues to push its EVs into emerging markets like Brazil. The Chinese automaker is partnering with a company controlled by Shell to install charging stations in 8 cities in Brazil over the next 3 years. They plan to roll out 600 stations under Shell's charging network called Shell Recharge. Toyota is skeptical that EVs are going to catch on in a big way, and that's especially true in the pickup truck segment. But plug-in hybrids are a different story. This is what Sheldon Brown, the chief engineer on the Toyota Tacoma, had to say about PHEVs on Autoline After Hours yesterday.
You know, I think the real debate is going to come between, do we want to go battery electric in the body and frame and pick up in the off-road vehicles, or do we want to go plug-in? And right now, you know, I'll say from a general trending, I don't think the PHEVs have been getting the attention, or frankly speaking, you know, really the credit, if you will, that they deserve, because it's a really interesting solution to me in the truck market.
Sheldon Brown shared a lot of his insights into the midsize truck segment, and you can listen to what he had to say on our website or on our YouTube channel. But that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for making Autoline a part of your day, and I hope that you have a great weekend.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Wards is the industry leader for news, data, and analysis. That's why companies across the globe subscribe to our premium service, maybe even your own. Log in for subscriber access now, check your company's intranet for details, and rely on wardsauto.com to keep you informed.